Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today, by popular demand, we will be looking at a Christmas cover and compilation album featuring current and former members of Megadeth, Guns N' Roses, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Deep Purple, The Runaways, Rat, and more, entitled A Very Metal Christmas. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, I'm not even really sure where to begin with this one here today. I'm a little lost. I'm a little confused. A tad kerfuzzled, you could say. Actually, that's a bit of an exaggeration. Dare I say even a lie. I do know where to begin today. First off, with a bit of a disclaimer, I don't like Christmas music. I don't even really like Christmas. The chaos, the mania, the frenzy, the uncompromised, unrelenting, obnoxious Christmas commercialization and capitalism, how it's shoved down your throat for like 2.5 months of the year. It's terrible. I hate it. For that reason, I was probably not going to like any kind of Christmas album thrown my way whatsoever. So, yeah, heads up. That being said, I did my best to look at this as objectively as possible. I will acknowledge there is still some bias, but I don't feel it's as biased as it could have been if I were just listening to this like outside of the Metal Meltdown as an album, like if I was just trying to listen to it for funsies, you know what I mean? And secondly, with a shot to cool the nerves and numb the pain. A great way to start any bad review, really. Oh yeah, spoiler alert, these albums are bad. In case that wasn't already obvious. So, A Very Metal Christmas is 2 albums, actually, both of which have been put together, have been assembled by Cleopatra Records. They were released near the end of October, but I first came to know them after MetalSucks.net shared a cover of Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You, featuring Tim Ripper Owens, formerly of Judas Priest, currently of KK's Priest. Bumblefoot is also on the cut, who was with Guns N' Roses for a few years and is also now a solo guitarist. He has another band called Art of Anarchy. And Dave Ellefson, who up until a couple of years ago was the bassist for Megadeth. You may remember he was kicked out of Megadeth because of a literal sex scandal. So, yeah. I did like a 60-second song review reaction video kind of thing. It went on TikTok, and it was also a YouTube short here. And I declared it one of the worst metal songs of 2023. I frankly stand by that. There's definitely been a lot of crap from Dungeon Wolf, Kim Dracula, OTEP, but something about this particular song just makes my blood boil. The original All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey is a very iconic song. You're probably very familiar with it. You probably have very strong opinions on it. Me personally, I've always found it to be incredibly annoying, and guess what? The addition of like multiple layers of epic heavy metal twin guitar bullshit and, you know, Tim Owens doing his absolute best / worst impersonation of Rob Halford does not help whatsoever. It's sloppy, it's tacky, it's gross. It's as if the entire idea was just, hey, how do we make this metal? Got it. Let's add like 4 or 5 layers of guitar and let's drown somebody in lava while they're trying to sing a Judas Priest song. Boom, nailed it. The fact that this song opens A Very Metal Christmas, the first part of this 2-part Christmas compilation album, is quite the kick in the dick, to be blunt. Starting things off on the worst possible note. And it doesn't really get better from there. You've got a version of Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree featuring Tracy Guns of LA Guns and Cherry Curry of The Runaways. It's very generic, sleazy glam rock guitar riffs pasted on top of the original with a pretty mediocre vocal performance from Cherry. There's a version of Feliz Navidad featuring Stephen Pearcy of Rat fame and Vinnie Moore. This is just flat out fucking ugly. The mix on this is awful. There's so much reverb, there's so much echo. It sounds like it was recorded by a really bad 80s cover band in a literal cave. Covers of Last Christmas, Please Come Home for Christmas fare a little bit better. They're a lot less irritating, but it's still like pretty mediocre, like hard rock and dad rock kind of stuff. Like it really just sounds like a bar band playing a show on Christmas Eve, or like a group of dads putting something together for like the neighborhood Christmas party or something like that. There's also a cover of White Christmas from Bullet Boys, which I don't really care for. The vocals in particular, I think, are really pitchy, really weird, really nasally. It's giving, like, modern-day, mid-range Axl Rose vibes. Then there's Santa Claus Is Coming to Town, featuring Paul Di'Anno, probably best known for his work on Iron Maiden's first 2 albums. They're self-titled and Killers. More recently, he's been talking mad shit about Ghost and their version of Phantom of the Opera, featured on the Phantomime EP, and also now a nominee at the Grammy Awards for Best Metal Performance. And I'm bringing that up because I think it's interesting that he would talk shit about a relatively faithful, harmless cover of a classic song. Meanwhile, he's pumping out this dreck that wouldn't even fly at, like, Tuesday night karaoke. This sounds like the world's worst Iron Maiden tribute band who, minutes before jumping on stage, drank an ungodly amount of tequila and mezcal. Paul's vocals are so fucking rough, too. So bad that, like, it's genuinely hard to believe that this man once sang for Iron Maiden. Like, it's genuinely tough. The sequel, second part, companion piece, whatever you want to call it, A Very Metal Christmas 2, does not fare much better. We have another Paul Di'Anno cut on here called Another Rock and Roll Christmas. I will concede that this is a stronger cut, though. It has more momentum, it has more juice, it has more energy. It's by no means spectacular, but out of everything we've talked about so far on these albums, it's probably the best thing I've heard. If it's not the best, it's at least within, like, the top 3 songs on this thing. Alongside a very sweet, tender, almost naked rendition of Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas featuring Marty Friedman. This really is as good as it gets, though. It's still a fucking mess. Don't let 2 semi-decent songs let you think for a moment that suddenly this half of A Very Metal Christmas is suddenly a colossal improvement. You've still got Oh Holy Night, featuring Glenn Hughes and Tracy Guns once again, which is honestly just like a really cringy fusion of like gospel and like 70s hard rock. It's annoying, it's garish. Glenn does not sound great vocally here either. Blue Christmas featuring Jack Russell and Chris Holmes is a pretty ugly cut too. I hate the guitar tone. I'm not a huge fan of the vocal work here. I guess I don't hate Run Rudolph Run from Faster Pussycat either. Like it's fine. I don't know. I think by this point in A Very Metal Christmas 2, I was just kind of like beaten down by both of these albums. Like A Very Metal Christmas 1 clocks in at like 43.5 minutes. A Very Metal Christmas 2 clocks in at about 47 minutes. That's roughly 90 minutes, an hour and a half of Christmas carnage. Like, it's just too fucking much. I don't know why this was made into 2 albums. Like, is there really a demand for all of these, like, washed-up 70s and 80s, like, rock and metal musicians to make Christmas music? Was there really so much of a demand that we needed to make 2 albums? Really? I call bullshit. And that's another thing, like, it'd be great to see some young blood on this. I mean, the newest names on this album are, like, Bumblefoot and, like, Glenn Drover, you know? Like, I find it very hard to believe that a band like, say, August Burns Red would not be interested in contributing something to, like, a big Christmas compilation album, you know? Or maybe bands like, say, Lorna Shore and Whitechapel, who do, like, big Christmas shows at the end of every single year. But then again, I guess they probably cost more to bring into the studio rather than, like, a guy who played rhythm guitar on one fucking Rat album way back in the day, or one fucking UFO album back in the day, or whatever the fuck, you know? Aside from some of the instrumental cuts that you'll hear across this album, and the odd actual glam rock jam here and there, I mostly found these albums to be, like, really, really fucking bland and boring, because almost none of these musicians and these bands associated with this project do anything new to the source material. None of them try to take it into new territory. None of them try to take it into more interesting territory. It's basically just, hey, let's throw some drums and guitars and screeching vocals on top of this and call it a day. Everyone is familiar with all of these original songs, irregardless of whether or not you celebrate Christmas, irregardless of whether or not you're a fucking Christian. Like, everyone knows Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree. Everyone knows All I Want for Christmas Is You. So it would really be in your best interest to elevate this material, and there's no effort really across the board to do that, aside, again, from some instrumental cuts like the aforementioned Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas with Marty Friedman. In its worst moments, though, these albums remind me of the worst elements of Christmas. They're repulsive, they're garish, they're obnoxious, they're cringe-worthy. Some of these songs and some of these performances are so bad that it would legitimately have the most die-hard Christmas fan going, you know what, maybe the Grinch was onto something. You know what, maybe Ebenezer Scrooge wasn't that bad of a guy. These two albums together just fail on so many fucking levels, and I really can't picture myself listening to this willingly without an absolutely absurd, dangerous amount of alcohol in my system. And even in that scenario, I'd rather just go listen to, like, actual Guns N' Roses, actual Iron Maiden, actual Judas Priest, instead of whatever, like, the former members of these bands put together in a basement for someone's Christmas company party. I'm feeling a solid bah humbug out of 5 on both of these albums together. The worst Christmas albums I've ever heard. They don't need to exist. I wish they didn't. And yeah, that's it. Bah humbug. Oh, sweet, sweet release. That is so good. Press this button to subscribe. Look, there's even more videos here. As always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day. Now, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go listen to literally anything else to remove this from my brain. I'm gonna go drown myself in a bathtub full of eggnog. Also. Yeah.